guys, and welcome back to Like's Life. As you can see, we've had our baby girl, our little bundle of joy, and of course you can tell by the title that this is my birth story. I did do a story time before as far as how I got pregnant, but I didn't actually write down um, dates and times and stuff, so I got confused. So this video, I actually wrote down some of the times and things that I can remember, because there became a point in time in the story where time got away from me, and I'll tell you why. Um, so this is Acacia Rowan Likes, our 5th addition to our family. As you guys know, we have 2 other kids, Phoenix and Jet, and they are definitely enjoying their baby sister. But she came out at 6 pounds, 10 ounces, and 19 inches. She was born on May 3rd. Today is May 13th. Today is May 13th, the day after my mama's birthday. Today is May 13th, so she's 10 days old already. Oh, it's so sad. It's going by so fast. I know it's only like 2 weeks, but it's going by so fast. So yeah, just stick with me and I will tell you all about my birth story. So May 2nd, I woke up around 10 o'clock. Hold on, let me get my notes so I don't miss anything. I woke up at around 10 o'clock a.m. and I was feeling fine. I was feeling normal. And I didn't feel like getting out of bed or anything, but I did get up and I ate a toaster strudel. I ate a toaster strudel, and then I got back in bed because Brandon was still asleep and I wanted to just be in bed with him until he woke up. So I noticed that I always made sure throughout my whole pregnancy that I paid attention to baby girl's kicks, because I knew that some moms later on in pregnancy that they lost their babies because they maybe didn't notice that their kicks or their movements had become sluggish or slow, or they didn't notice that they weren't moving. Maybe they were active or whatever it may be. I don't really know, but I know that I have read some stories about moms losing their babies later on in pregnancy. Mind you, on on May 2nd, I was 39 weeks on the dot. So every Saturday, which was a Saturday, every Saturday I turned another week. So May 2nd, I was 39 weeks. So I'm laying in bed and I'm playing my games. I'm checking social media. I'm just kind of lounging around until Brandon gets up. So he woke up, I want to say around 12:20, and I told him, I said, babe, I just haven't felt her really move. She gave me, I ate, I lay down, I drank some water. She gave me a couple movements, but nothing normal. She's normally a really good mover, really good kicker, really good squirmer, and I hadn't felt her actually move, or I hadn't felt the 10 movements in those 2 hours that I had been awake. So he started talking to her through my stomach. He started talking to her, and she didn't respond to him like she had been doing before. One thing about her is that when he talked to my tummy, she always moved. She always came to where his voice was, and she wasn't doing that. So I got really concerned, and the kids were actually home that weekend. So I told him that I would go to the hospital, which is about 30 minutes away. I would go to the hospital. She's stirring, probably because she hears me talking. But I would go to the hospital just to check it out, just to be safe. And yeah, and just, you know, just to be safe. Because previously, on my last doctor's visit, my nurse practitioner said, you know, if she's at any time she's feeling sluggish at all, or just not moving like she usually does within the 2 hours, you go to the hospital immediately. So I took that seriously, and I got up and I took a shower, and I went to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, I did stop by McDonald's, and I got some food, and I got a Dr. Pepper because I wanted to see if the Dr. Pepper and food would perk her up, and it didn't. I did feel her kick, but I'm telling you, the kicks were just not as strong as they were on any normal day. So I got to the hospital, and I actually sat in the car for about 10 minutes because I was like contemplating on whether or not I was being serious or if I was just being overreacting, because I did ask someone their opinion, and they kind of made me feel like I was overreacting. So I sat in the car and I prayed, and I didn't feel like, my spirit just didn't feel good about leaving without going inside. So I put on my mask and I went inside, and you know, of course, they checked me at the ER, asked you the normal COVID questions. They checked me at the ER, and then after you're like 20 weeks, if you go to the hospital, if you're less than 20 weeks, like 19 and less, then you go to the ER. But if you're 20 weeks and more, you go straight to labor and delivery. So when I got there, they took me straight to labor and delivery. They let them know what was going on. So I get into labor and delivery, and they roll me to the desk, and the charge nurse, who was really sweet, basically, you know, started asking me some questions before they put me into the labor and delivery triage room. Now, this is not the delivery hall. This is like if you were going to the ER and they put you in a room, but for labor and delivery. So as I was at the desk, she was asking me, oh, when's the last time you felt her move? When's the last time you ate? Things like that. So I was, answering the questions. I had just eaten, had a Dr. Pepper to try to perk her up. She didn't perk up. And then she, for some reason, put her hand on my stomach. I don't know if she could see my stomach or what, but she put her hand on my stomach, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like, you just not even gonna ask me. But she put her hand on my stomach, and she goes, well, how long have you been having contractions? And I'm like, I haven't been having contractions. I didn't come for contractions. I came because I haven't really felt her move. And she was like, well, you're having contractions. And I'm like, am I? Like, I don't know. Like, this is my first pregnancy. I don't know what contractions feel like. I felt like contractions are supposed to be like this overwhelming pain, and me crying or screaming or whatever. And so she's like, yeah. So she's like, wait a minute, I'm gonna tell you when you have another one. So my stomach started to tighten, and it stayed tight for a couple seconds, and then it released, and she was like, those are contractions. And I'm like, well, I've been having those since last night. I just thought like my tummy was hurting. I don't know. I don't know. And she's like, no, you're having contractions. And I was like, oh, okay. So they took me, as I was at the desk, my doctor, my OB, walks past. But you could tell like she was super busy. Like her head was, I'm sorry. I see my OB walk by. But you could tell that she was super, super busy. And later on, I did learn that she had like every room in the delivery hall, almost every room in the delivery hall had someone that either just had a baby or they were in labor. So she was busy. So that's neither here nor there. So they take me into the triage room. They take me to the triage room and they start monitoring my contractions, and they start monitoring the baby's movements. So my nurse came in. Her name was Norma, I believe. My nurse came in and she was super, super sweet, and she checked my cervix and she couldn't quite get there to my cervix. It was really high. So she had the charge nurse come in and she checked my cervix and she said it was still closed. I hadn't dilated, but I was having contractions. At this time, my contractions were 5 to 12 minutes apart, and I knew that I was having contractions at this point because she did tell me, not because I was in pain, but because she told me, you know, it was the tightening, the hardening, and the releasing of my stomach. So that's how I knew I was having contractions. So I stayed in, I'm reading off my paper to make sure I don't miss anything. Yeah, I stayed there for a couple of hours actually. So from like 2 to 5 p.m. I was there being not being monitored. Actually, they took me off the monitor probably like an hour after I got there. So let's say I got there at like 2 p.m. and they took me off around 3. Okay, so about from 2 to 3, when I got there at 2 to about 3 o'clock or 3:30, let's say 3:30, they were monitoring me. They did take me off the monitors because they said everything looked good. They said the baby had perked up some after they had given me fluids, and they gave me fluids through just giving me water cups. They did say I was a bit dehydrated, so they gave me water cups, and they said the baby had perked up. So, and then they also said since my contractions were only 5 to 12 minutes apart, that I was in early labor, but not enough or dilated enough to stay. So they were gonna send me home as soon as the doctor said that I could go. So when they said that they were gonna release me, the doctor actually, the nurse that came on to the next shift, because for some reason they let Nurse Norma go, and then they had another nurse come around 5 o'clock, and she was like, why aren't you on the monitors? And I said, I haven't been on the monitors for a while. They took me off. They said everything was fine. And she was like, well, while we're waiting for the doctor to release you or to figure out, you know, basically what they're going to do, I'm going to put you back on the monitors. So she hooked me back up to the monitors, and she noticed that either her or the doctor noticed that I guess my contractions had become closer, and so she wanted to just make sure that the baby's like weight and like the health of the baby was fine, and also make sure my fluids were fine in my amniotic fluid was fine. So she ordered an ultrasound. So I waited for the ultrasound tech. I actually went to sleep because I was super tired. I waited for the ultrasound tech for about 30 minutes. So about 5:30, the ultrasound tech came in, but she literally, as she walked in, picked up her phone and she was like, "Oh my God, I'll be right back." And I was kind of like out of it because I was sleeping when she walked in, and I'm like, okay. And she's like, "I have a life or death situation in the ER," and I'm like, oh my geez. Okay, I was like, okay. So she was like, "I'll be back in like 30 minutes." Well, 30 minutes ended up being like an hour, which I was fine with because I'm not dying. So, please go help the person that needs it more. So she came back and, she apologized for it being so long. And she didn't tell me what happened or anything like that, but I wish she would because I low-key, like, wanted to know. I did. I wanted to know what happened. But she didn't tell me what happened. And, okay, so about 6:30, she gave me my ultrasound and she said, "Oh, baby looks good," or whatever. And she measured the head. She showed me where baby girl was like suckling, just like with her mouth. It was cute. And then once she was finished, she was like, "Okay." And then I asked her, I said, "About how long do you think it'll be until the results come and I'll know whether or not, I can go ahead and go home or whatever." And she was like, "Oh, it'll be, I'm gonna go put in the results right now, if they'll let me use the computer at the desk." So she asked the lady, if the nurse, if she could use the computer at the desk, and she said yes. So the ultrasound tech went and did that. Also, mind you, my phone had died around, if it was like 6:30, my phone had died around 3, and I could not get a hold of Brandon. I mean, they let me use the phone, so I did. Once I woke up, when the ultrasound tech came back, I woke up and I asked before she got started if I could call Brandon, and I just told him, I was like, "They're saying that everything is good. Don't worry, I'll be home. I'll charge my phone as soon as I get in the car. And then I'll, talk to you about it more, whatever." And he was like, "Okay, just let me know. Try to, keep me updated or whatever." So I said, okay. So about I want to say like 10, 20, maybe 20, like to like 30 minutes. So let's like say at 7 o'clock p.m. I'm still on Saturday, 7 o'clock p.m. My doctor comes in and she's like, basically that at this point my contractions are 1 to 5 minutes apart. I'm still in no pain, so I don't know how they were 1 to 5 minutes apart, but I was trying to clock them, and I got like the ones that I were clocking, they were like 3 minutes apart. So I know, oh my bra hooked. Okay. So yeah, they were like 3 minutes apart. So she was like, your contractions are 1 to 5 minutes apart, and my amniotic fluid was at a 5.4. And she said that that's not bad, but she said it gets dangerous when it drops down to a 4. And she said it was just too close for comfort, and that she wasn't comfortable with letting me go home, and that she was admitting me, and that she would recommend inducing me. If you have been watching my other vlogs, you will know that I've been wanting to, at that point, I have been wanting to have my baby so bad. I was trying to do everything in my power to have her. And when she said that, I immediately said, okay, can I call my husband? And so I called Brandon and I said, "Babe, come on. We had literally just finished packing and rechecking the bags. I told him the night before, I said, on Saturday we're going to get up and we're going to really clean the house again. We're going to check the bags and everything. And while I was gone, he had done that. So I was really happy. I was really happy about that. So I said, come on, get the bags. The car seat was already in the car that I had taken. And so he got to me, I want to say around, let me see, I said that I called Brandon around 7:15 p.m. and he got to me around 8, I want to say around 8 p.m. Yeah. So like I was saying, she didn't want it to go below 4, and plus my contractions were so close together. So they admitted me and they moved me from the triage hallway of labor and delivery to an actual labor and delivery room. I had the little box. Everything was becoming like so real when I seen that little box that they put the baby in, or incubator, or whatever that thing is that they put the babies in after you give birth. Like everything became so real. Like I was so excited. So what a problem was, I did tell them that I was like constipated all that week before going in. So like, let's say Sunday to Saturday, I had been constipated. I had not been able to actually have a real bowel movement. TMI, I'm so sorry, but I hadn't had a real bowel movement any of those days. Like, it was terrible. I was so uncomfortable, besides the pain and everything else that comes with pregnancy, on top of not being able to go poop. And I was trying everything, prune juice, stool softeners. I was trying everything. So when they checked my cervix, once I got to labor and delivery, the delivery side, they checked my cervix and she said, I can really tell that you are backed up. So before we start inducing you, let's try to get you to have a bowel movement, because once you start having pressure in your cervix, it's going to create more pressure because you're not able to go. And she's like, you're going to be so uncomfortable, you're going to be miserable on top of being miserable because you're in labor. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So if I got back there, if Brandon got there at 8, because he was there for they gave me a suppository and they gave me an enema, and neither one of them worked. It was terrible, especially because you could like try to hold it until like 15 minutes for the suppository, and then you have to hold the enema as long as you can. Either way, it didn't really help. Nothing really came out. And at about 10 about, let's say, 10:45 p.m. on Saturday, she was like, listen, we have to get the treatment, the induction started, because I don't know, I forget why, but we had to get the induction started. And I said, okay, that's fine. She's like, you're not going to be able to go to the bathroom, so are you sure that you cannot go? And I said, I'm sure. I've tried, these couple of hours, and I just can't go. So she came back and she had this, it looked like a suppository or a tiny tampon with a long string, and it was called Cervidil. What she did was she put the this tampon medication thing, and she put it up behind my cervix. What the Cervidil was supposed to do was help soften my cervix and help me it was supposed to soften your cervix. And she said sometimes it helped. It's not for this, but sometimes it put women in labor. So I said, okay, I had to have it in for 12 hours. So from 11, they put it in at 11. I had to have it 11 p.m. on Saturday. I had to have it in until 11 a.m. on Sunday. So she said your contractions are going to get stronger. They are going to start becoming painful. So like prepare yourself. So I said okay. So I was like, let me try to go to sleep after she was finished. I said, let me try to go to sleep, because if labor is going to start anytime soon, or you know, at 11 when they take it out, I don't really know how it's going to go, but either way, let me try to get as much sleep as I possibly can. Yeah, so let me get as much sleep as I possibly can. So I slept actually for a good little minute. I probably went to sleep at like 12 or maybe 1 a.m. on Sunday, and then I woke up at about 6, and in my mind at 6 a.m. I was like, oh, let me try to sleep and try to get as much sleep as possible. Let me try to like sleep as close to 11 o'clock, because then after 11 o'clock then they're gonna start doing more stuff. So let me try to sleep till 11 o'clock or close to 11 o'clock. 8 o'clock rolled around and contractions were hitting me hard. At least in my mind, they were hitting me hard, and I was regretting getting induced, although it was inevitable. But I don't think I was regretting it, to be honest. I was happy, but I was in pain. So yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. So 8 o'clock contractions started hitting me so hard. Now when I said that time got away from me, and at this is the point where I can't remember what was up and what was down. They switched shifts, and I couldn't tell you what my nurse's face looked like until about, I don't even know what time, because I don't even know what time I got an epidural, because I wanted to do this natural with no pain medication, with nothing. But oh baby, I did my best as long as I could. I want to say that I at least did 6 hours. I want to say I at least did 6 hours of no medication from 8, let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 2 p.m. Let's say. But I know that I did it for a couple of hours, and I was trying to like thug it out. But I think what pushed me over the edge is when my nurse did come in, and when I tell you at this point I still didn't know what she looked like, the new nurse that came in. She was like, my doctor came in. I only know that she came in because I know her voice, and she was like, basically, you know, you're like 0.5 centimeters dilated, but if you want to go ahead and get the epidural, it's okay. And I told her no, I didn't want to get an epidural. I was gonna, like I said, I was about to thug this out. I was going to have my baby natural, no medication. So she leaves out of the room, and not long after does she leave out of the room, does my nurse come in, and my nurse checks my cervix, and she's like, oh, you're 0.5 centimeters dilated. And I said, after laboring that long and I had not moved but 0.5, I was like, I can't do this for 10 more centimeters. I can't do it, and no telling if it's gonna take me 2 hours, 3 hours to dilate to the next centimeter. Oh no. So I was like, I want an epidural, and she was like, listen, if you get an epidural now, it might not work. It might not help you when it's time to actually like push or closer to the end of your labor. And I was like, okay, when do you think I should get an epidural? She said, at least get to a full centimeter before you actually get your epidural. So I was like, I basically, you know, my eyes closed. I'm like, okay. In my head, y'all, I was like screaming. But the nurse, later on, I asked the nurse, after I got my epidural and everything, I asked the nurse, and I asked Brandon, I asked the nurse, or apologized to the nurse, and I said, I'm so sorry for screaming when, you know, I was having my contraction. And she's like, girl, you didn't scream. I was like, I know that I was screaming. And she's like, you didn't scream at all. Brandon says I was making like this deep humming noise, and I was like, when I came to, I was like, oh yeah, I at the moment I thought I was screaming, but I wasn't. So during those 6 hours that I didn't have a epidural, I did get the medication that you actually get through your IV. I can't remember what it was called, but I know that I hated it. And if I ever have another baby, I will opt to not get it, because it doesn't help with pain whatsoever. It just makes you really, really sleepy. I didn't sleep through any of my contractions. I felt every one of them, and I felt them hard. And imagine being in a coma. This is what it felt like in my head. This is what it felt like. Being in a coma, but being in surgery, and you're supposed to be under anesthesia, but feeling every ounce of pain. That's what it felt like to have this medication. I was so out of it, but I could still feel these excruciating, like this excruciating pain. So I'll never get that medication again. I hated it. They gave it to me twice. You could get it like every 2 hours, and she's like, if you need it every 2 hours, that means you need to just go ahead and get an epidural. I got it twice, and I knew that that just wasn't working for me. So that also made me opt for an epidural. When I was getting my epidural, the contractions, you have to keep in mind, like, the contractions don't stop just because you're getting an epidural. So you're leaning over the bed. I'm leaning over my husband, really, or leaning onto him, really. You got this big old belly in front of you, so your legs are like spread wide open on this bed. You're trying to bend over with a big old belly in front of you. You also have to like keep your back like a line, and you also can't move. So I'm having these contractions, and I'm in this awkward position, and I can't move. So it actually, the pinching and all that wasn't bad. It was the not moving during contractions. And I want to say I had about 3 to 4 contractions before the medication actually got in. Well, no, before they put like this big old tape to keep it from pulling out, keep your epidural line from pulling out. Before they got all that done, I probably had about 3 to 4 contractions before they got it all done. And I'm saying I think because I am still out of it. I don't know what time I got an epidural. I just know I got one. So once I did have my epidural, everything was great. Like, I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel my vagina. So when they checked my cervix, they were like, okay, a little pressure. I could feel the pressure, but it no longer hurt. So I couldn't feel anything, and it was great. It was great. And then they give you like this little push button that you push it if you need more medication in your epidural. Oh, let me not. I hit her. I don't want to wake her up. But yeah, if you need more medication, they give you like that little push thing. So after I got my epidural, I labored for a little while longer, a couple hours longer. So I wasn't really making any progress. I wasn't making any quick progress. And I asked her, I was like, basically how I was doing dilating. And she said I was dilating about 1 centimeter per hour. So it wasn't a quick labor. I was dilating 1 centimeter per hour. Once I did get to an 8, though, it did go by pretty fast. I went from like an 8 to a 10 in maybe 30 minutes. And at that point, once I got to a 10, basically all the nurses, you know, that come help you deliver, all of them were in my room, prepping my room. Like, I was seeing stuff that I ain't never seen before. They were like pulling out bars from underneath my bed. They were bringing in like machines. They were doing all kind of things. Oh, and at some point, my my doctor broke my water. um I think the reason why I was so out of it and I can't really give times and stuff like that is because that medication, that first medication I had me still feeling like a zombie. Because even when I was pushing, I felt like a zombie. Like, I wasn't very alert, I feel like. But I knew what was going on, but I just didn't feel as alert as I would normally feel. So my doctor did break my water, which did not help like me dilate faster. I was pretty far dilated. I want to say I was five maybe, 5 or 6 maybe, and she broke my water. So, and she said that it could help if they broke my water. When she did break my water, she noticed that baby had already pooped. So they were concerned about that. They wanted to make sure that they monitored the baby closely because she had already had her first bowel movement when she was in the womb. And when they broke the water, I guess it came out with the amniotic fluid. So then they do give you a catheter when you get an epidural, because you're not able to get up, of course, and walk to the bathroom. You can't feel anything from the waist down. So they give you a catheter. And my 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. nurse was a horror. Me and Brandon, we were just not impressed with her at all. She was so nice, nasty, and one of the nurses the next morning, once she did leave and I did complain, I didn't like complain, but I just was like, I wish I just would have had a better nurse during my labor and my delivery. Just someone sweeter. And the day nurse the next day on Monday was like, oh, I totally understand. I totally understand. I guess a lot of people have complained about it, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you know, if a lot of people are complaining about it, I feel like that should be addressed. But hey, whatevs. So it wasn't terrible, but it was not the best experience. The nurse, her name was Kayla. She was my nurse prior. She was my nurse from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. before the shift changed. And she was so awesome, and I really wanted to have my baby on her shift because I just knew I was going to be taken care of. This is the nurse that I can't remember what her face looked like until I had my epidural. That I actually didn't look at her face until I had my epidural. But the night nurse was a horror, and if you want me to do a story time on her, I will most definitely do so. Just leave a comment below, and also leave a thumbs up for this video. So, oh, and subscribe. So basically, okay, so after my water's broken at this point, I'm dilated and everything. So I want to say about 11 o'clock, everyone started prepping me for labor. My doctor was actually in the next room over delivering a baby. She left out of that room and came into my room, and I started to push. Don't ask me what time, because I don't know. I just know that the baby came out at 11:35. I did not push for a long time. I probably, in my head, I want to say I did about 10 pushes. Maybe not. I don't know. In my head, I want to say like 10 pushes. but I know it was like less than 20 minutes and she was out. You know, they were really, really, except for the night horror nurse, all the other nurses and the doctor were like, you know, she walked me through it, how I was supposed to push. And so basically you take a deep breath and then you push like you're pooping and you bear down into your stomach. So when I tell you, I was just using every muscle and all the might that I had, because I did not want to like be pushing for 2 hours. And you know, they were like cheering me on. Good job, way to go, you're doing great, good push, keep going. Like, it was hype in my room. My Brandon was standing on the right side of me. He was helping hold my legs, and I think he was holding, no, he wasn't holding my hand, because I was actually holding onto the bar so I could pull up and push and bear down. I don't know what he was holding. He was holding something. And every now and then, like through my pushes, I would like just look over at him to make sure I was doing okay. And you know, he's getting all emotional and stuff like that. Oh, it was beautiful. So yeah, it took me about less than 20 minutes to push her out. And at 11:35, I had baby girl. And I don't know if I said this already, but I'm gonna say it again. She was 6 pounds 10 ounces. Oh, and also I found out when she came out, she did not want to cry for them people. She did not want to cry. She did a little but she was so alert. She was looking around like, but she didn't want to cry for them. Now she holler. She only cries when she's hungry, but she can't tell me she's hungry, so that's how she tells me. But she's like a really good baby. We love her to death. She's been a great addition to our family. We can't wait to see her grow. Can't wait to show you guys her growing. Yeah, that's basically all that I can remember as far as my labor and delivery goes. I think I'm gonna do a story time anyways on the horrible night nurse that I had that actually delivered her, because there's more to just the delivery that this lady had going on. So I'm gonna do a story time, because this is already like 40 minutes long. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and go ahead and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our uploads. See ya. Bye.